Hey guys, Steven here back with another video, and today I'm making a video on Adobe Premiere Pro. I have the CC 2017 version, which is the most recent version that Adobe has released. If you have like CS6 or CC 2015, 2016, they're generally all the same, maybe with different layouts and different stuff, but generally the whole feeling of the software is the same. This video is directed towards beginners who are just getting into this, whether they're just getting into Adobe Premiere Pro, like they switch from Sony Vegas, or maybe Movie Maker or iMovie or Final Cut, or if they're just getting into video editing as a whole. So when you open up Premiere Pro here, there's going to be a Work and Learn tab. Learn tab is basically tutorials that Adobe has made to help you guys out. You guys can watch that if you want. And then Work are all your project files. You can make a new one or you can open one. So if you saved one previously, you can open up again. You can also make new team projects and open team projects. Basically, team projects are projects that more than one person can work on. Usually this is for businesses and that sort of stuff. Or maybe if you have a group of people that you make videos with, you can all edit at the same time. So I'm just going to show you guys through the process of me editing a video. I won't edit because that would take way too long. So I'll just show you the process and just talk you through it and just show you the layout in every small detail as best as I can. So you want to press new project right here. Basically, it opens up the project. That's kind of obvious. You want to type in the project name. So I'm going to say Premiere Pro Tutorial. You want to set the location. So this is where the project file is going to be saved, and then just press OK here. The first thing I do is usually import my media. You can either just drag in your media from your desktop or any other files, or you can go here, File, Import, and then import something. I think dragging's easier. So let me just drag in a random video. So maybe Twitter 4 right here. You just drag it in right here. And basically the first thing I do is set my sequence settings. Basically these are the project settings. So this determines what resolution the output video is gonna be. So the final video is gonna be, what frame rate it's gonna be in, stuff like that. If you don't know any of that terminology, if you just place any clip onto the timeline, what it will do is automatically set the sequence settings to match the settings of the clip you just added. So pretend this is 1080p at 60 FPS. In the sequence settings, it would show us that. As you can see, this is 720p at 30 FPS because this is a photo and it's 720p. And yeah, so that makes sense, right? So what I'll usually do is do 1080p. So I'll go to custom, I'll set in the dimensions. This is usually the settings most people have, 920 by 1080, which is 1080p, and around 30 FPS. Some people record at 60 FPS, some people record at 4K, which is a different frame size. But for me, I record at 1080p, so this is 1080p at 30 FPS. What I'll do also is check maximum bit depth and render quality. These are designed for high performance machines, high performance PCs and laptops, so I don't recommend you guys selecting this unless you do have one. This will help if you do a lot of color correction, and this will just help the quality in general. So I'm just gonna press OK, and that's gonna be my settings. So as you can see now, there's black bars. That's because this is 720p and the sequence settings are 1080p. So obviously this is smaller than the project settings. I'm just gonna insert a video that is actually, 1080p here. So let me just insert my intro and outro, because I believe those are 1080p. So as you can see here, my outro full screen. So let me just show you through some of the basic things here. These tabs at the top are there for a reason. At the beginning here, at assembly, you want to assemble all your clips. You want to know what you're placing. So this is where you import all your media. For editing, this is where you do the editing, color correction. This is basically color correction. On the right side here, it has Lumetri Colors, which is the built-in color corrector that they have. A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll do everything in the editing portion. Sometimes it's extremely hard to edit audio in this just because the timeline is too small for that. But if you go to audio here, the timeline's a lot bigger because a lot of things aren't required. As you can see here, you don't need effects controls or anything like that in audio or Lumetri Color because audio doesn't require that stuff. So like I said before, for assembly, this is where you import all your media, everything you need, your music, your sound effects, all that sort of stuff. In editing, this is where you cut, this is where you split, this is where you put it into place, the right order, stuff like that. Color. If you do color correction and you want to change the look of something, make it more realistic, maybe make it look moodier, you can do that. So like you can change it up right here, change the tones, stuff like that. Effects, this is where you apply transitions, maybe you do some distortion to the video. So for example, you can search up transitions right here. So let's just go to video transitions. You can do 3D motion, dissolve, stuff like that. So this is the special effects that you do after. It's a lot more efficient this way because you get one task done at a time instead of trying to do it all at once. For audio, you just cut the audio. It's a lot easier, like I said before, just because the timeline's a lot bigger. And then graphics are basically titles and stuff. So if you're using the newest version of Adobe Premiere Pro, what you'll notice is when you press this notepad here for new item, titles don't appear. So if you wanted to insert captions and stuff, it's available, but where are titles? Titles are now in file new, legacy text, and then it appears. So you press it and then the title appears. Some reason they removed it from here, which I don't understand, but whatever. So let me just go through here just because we just mentioned that over here. So first thing we have is sequence. So if you make a new sequence here, let me just show you. It's basically a new timeline. Sometimes this is easier for editing if you're editing a certain clip and you just want it to be neater. So what you can do is basically go to sequence 1 here, just drag in this, and then now you can drag in sequence 1 once you're done. This makes it easier to edit just because it isn't as cluttered all over here, and you can edit it all separately. Maybe you're doing like a top 5 video or something like that. It would be much easier to edit number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in different sequences. Or if you're doing a short film, if you have different scenes and stuff, it might be easier to edit that way as well. Then there's adjustment layer. So basically what adjustment layer is something you can apply any effects on, and it will apply those effects on anything that the adjustment layer is over. So as you can see here, the adjustment layer is in effect from this point to this point. So if you add any sort of color correction, it will be applied to this point and this point. Why this is helpful is usually people use this for color correction. If they have several clips, what they do is they'll just drag this over the entire thing, like all the other clips. It's a lot easier to apply Lumetri color on the adjustments tab than apply to every single separate clip. It just saves a lot of time. It doesn't have to be with color correction or Lumetri color. It could be with different effects, distortion effects, transitions. It doesn't really matter. But basically adjustment layer is basically there to apply any effects that you want over whatever you want. Next thing, bars and tone. So as you can see here, it has this like, you know, TV thing, which is good actually. I can see this being helpful for a lot of people because people do this in their short films or in their gaming videos, entertainment videos. And so now you don't have to search it up on Google or anything. Black video. I wonder what black video is. Oh, this is a black video. Captions, that's pretty self-explanatory. It's captions. So here you can see you can add the captions at any point, and you can select at what time in the clip or in the video that the caption appears. So that's pretty easy. So let's go back to the project right here. Color matte is basically black screen, but with a color. So you can choose whatever color. Let's just do red. Once again, pretty helpful. Next, HD bars in tone. I wonder what's different. Let's compare. Tell me what's different in here. It literally is the same thing, but different layout. The next thing is universal counting leader. So people do this for like that old school film look, and you can adjust like the settings and stuff. Once again, it's really helpful, like the bars right here, just because you don't have to search up stock footage on YouTube or anything, and it saves a lot of time. And yeah, that's really all that's important there. So basically there are other like tabs right here. You can see media browser. This is basically going through your desktop and you can see what files are available. It's just sometimes easier to browse through that than going to import and trying to find it. Library, this is your online library. So if you're with like Adobe Creative Cloud and you have like stock footage or anything, or you just want to place in your library to make it easier so that every time you make a new project it appears, you can do that. Like I can find that really helpful if you have an intro and you use it in every one of your videos. There's no point in importing it every time if it's already in your library. It saves a lot of time. Info, it literally is like the info of the clip, like the frame rate, the resolution, stuff like that. For effects, it's the effects that I showed you before. Markers, basically what markers are used for is if you have an important part in the clip or you just want to take note of something, like maybe you want to do an edit change later, you can just place a marker and then it'll remind you. So if you add a chapter marker here, you can press OK and it appears right here. So you know at that point there's something that you want to be reminded of or something like that, or a note that you made. History, this is really helpful, especially if you make a lot of cuts and stuff. Basically, it'll redo and undo everything that you've done. So you can go back to a point where you made a mistake or you deleted everything. You can do that. It's really helpful. The next thing, captions, like I showed you before. The next thing I'm going to teach you guys are the shortcuts. So the shortcuts are basically the same as any other editor, kind of different, however, because in Sony Vegas, if you click on a clip and press C, it will cut at that point. It will like split the clip. But instead in Premiere Pro, if you press C, a razor tool appears and then you have to click on it. It takes a little bit longer that way, but it's also helpful because there's a lot of other tools. So if you remember these shortcuts, it could really help you out. So if you press P, it's the pen tool. I'll hover over them so you guys can see. So text tool or type tool is T, hand tool is H, slip tool is Y, razor tool, which is used to split stuff, is C, ripple edit tool is B, track select 4 tool is A, and then the selection tool is V. So the selection tool is basically used to just go through here. It's kind of similar to the hand tool here, but the hand tool is more used to pan through your timeline. It's a lot harder to do with this, like you can't just drag. The pen tool is used for things like masking. So if you click on the clip right here, you can like select a portion of the clip, or you can draw shapes. So if you were to go here under opacity, you can mask something out and just like cut it out. You can lower that part of the video's opacity, single it out. It's similar to stuff in Photoshop. So if you're familiar with that, you can do that. It's basically a tool that you can use to draw stuff or cut stuff out and make shapes basically. The next thing is a slip tool. I never really use it. I don't really know anybody that uses it. So as you can see, when I drag this way, everything moves. You can see right here, like the audio moves right here. So let's just drag it. You can see that the audio moves. So basically you can pan through a video and kind of edit when it starts, when it ends, stuff like that. I don't see when that's helpful at all, actually. I think it's kind of annoying, but whatever. Next one's razor tool. It's used to cut and stuff, you know. Also, I forgot to mention, if you just drag, like you click and drag, you can see the other options. So this is vertical type tool. Hand tool right here is also zoom tool. I don't see this helpful because you can just go here and just drag out to zoom and unzoom, but whatever. Pen tool right here. It's also a shape tool. So these are more for like drawings and stuff. Here, this is for slide tool as well. So basically these two are used to like move things around. So you can see it's just easier like that. Razor tool is just by itself because it's that cool. For rolling edit tool right here, you can see there are different ones. So basically I don't use this, but for rate stretch tool, basically what it does is you can speed up something and stretch out something. So this basically changes the speed of something. You don't have to right click, go to speed and duration and set the speed you want if you want it to match a certain area right here. Because for example, if you wanted to make this slower so that it would stretch until here, it's really hard to determine the exact speed that would take. So if you did 50, you might not know. So as you can see, it didn't perfectly go there. But if you use this right here, you can just stretch to that side, and then now you know how slow it is. So if you go here, I was close. I'm pretty smart, but not that smart. The next thing right here is the track select forward tool, and you can see what it does. It just moves everything forward. And yeah, that's that. I'm gonna go now and right click right here and show you guys everything here. I already showed you speed and duration. Now I'm gonna show you some of the stuff that is basic, but I think will help you. The first thing is, if you press replace with After Effects composition, or for audio, if you click on audio and edit in Adobe Audition, basically what it does is you can make edits in those two programs, and when you save that edit, it will go directly back into Premiere Pro and apply those effects. The reason why this is super helpful is because the audio editing functionality that you have in Premiere Pro is limited, but in Adobe Audition, you can make your voice sound a lot better. So what you can do is right click, press edit, clip in Adobe Audition, apply effects to make your voice sound better, and then it'll save those changes in this editor. After Effects, maybe you're editing a clip. After Effects has a lot more functionality in like special effects, stuff like that. So if you want to apply special effects, that's available to you. Audio gains to increase the audio, decrease the audio. Frame hold, it'll freeze the first frame of the clip, and the rest of the clip will be that screenshot. And yeah, that's probably the most important stuff for beginners. You'll learn the other stuff as you progress. Most of the other stuff is stuff that isn't really needed in basic editing. I see more like filmmakers do that sort of stuff. Really, all you really need to know is how to cut clips and stuff. I also forgot to mention, as you can see here, the audio is at the bottom and the video is at the top. If you want to separate these two for any reason, you just right click and you can press unlink and they'll separate. So this is sometimes helpful as well. If you want to crop something, like trim it, you can just do that as well. Or you can split it. It doesn't really matter. So one thing that really annoyed me was how hard it was for me to navigate through the timeline, because I found it very hard to zoom in, zoom out, because I didn't like to use this. What you can do instead is press Alt and you can zoom in. And so wherever you hold Alt and zoom in on, it actually goes there. On Sony Vegas, it's a bit easier because you can just zoom in on anywhere and you don't have to hold Alt, but you know, whatever. If you hold Shift, it goes left to right. If you hold Alt, it goes in and out. Let me just go through some of these things. So this is add marker. This is in and out. So this is usually used in rendering. I'll show you that later. So go to in, go to out. So go to in, basically that's where the in is. That's where I set it. Step back one frame, go forward one frame. That's pretty self-explanatory. Play, go to out. Once again, you already know. And for the last one, export frame, Control Shift E. If you press it, it'll basically take a screenshot at that frame and you can set it as a JPEG and put it to your desktop. It might be helpful if you have like a really cool video and you want to take a screenshot of it, I don't know. If you press the plus button right here, basically it'll show you some other buttons you can apply. So FX mute, basically this will disable all the effects you have. and you can see the other ones. And yeah, I also forgot to mention, if you press on this toolbar here, something really helpful you can do is you can expand all tracks so that they can be as big as possible, so that you can see all of them at once and they all fit on the timeline. This makes it a lot easier when I edit. So usually when I first start editing, I just do that right away. If you do minimize all tracks, they'll be as small as they possibly can. Now the next thing is effects controls. So if you just click on a clip right here, you'll see something called effects controls right here. These are very basic things. It looks kind of confusing. This is one of the most confusing things I've seen when I just like started editing. But so basically what these stopwatches are toggle animations, and you can toggle a keyframe. There's things like this in, you know, Vegas and stuff. So if you're familiar with that, it'd be pretty similar. So basically if you want your scale, so this is at 100 scale because it's originally like this. If you just press the keyframe, at this point it's going to be at 100, but if you increase it, it'll slowly transition to that number. It'll slowly get bigger because at that point you set a different number. So basically keyframes help with that sort of stuff, changing numbers. So like position, if you want it at this point, you want it to be at this position, and then at this point you want it to be at this position, you can do that. So basically if there's already keyframes and you want to place another one, you can just press this. If there's no keyframes, you can just press toggle animation right here. One other thing, and this is probably easier for a lot of people, if you press on motion right here, you can actually resize it. Pretty simple. It's like this in a lot of editors. I think in Vegas Pro and Camtasia, you can do this by default. Some people don't know how to do this and don't know this exists. So this could be helpful if you don't want to change the scale and position and stuff like that. Rotation, pretty, you know, self-explanatory. Opacity, you can change the visibility of it. Blend mode, this is, for example, let me just show you. Let's just duplicate this clip. Another shortcut is if you press Alt. If you hold Alt and drag, it'll duplicate, but whatever. You can see if you click on the top clip right here and just go to blend mode and go to lighten, or maybe that doesn't work, overlay, it changes the look. So this happens when you have a lot of layers. You'll know this if you use Photoshop and stuff. So they have these blend modes and stuff. And yeah, time revamping is basically changing speeds at certain times. It's similar to speed and duration, but it's a lot easier if you can just have a timeline of itself just for time revamping. Volume effects, you can see just nothing I can really explain right there. And basically if you just want to disable effect, you can just disable it right here. If you apply an effect at all, like maybe Lumetri color right here, if you apply this effect, it'll actually appear in this as well. So you can see Lumetri color is under here as well. So you can make any edits you want in this as well. And to disable, you just click this and it disables. So that's what this was right here, the global FX mute. And over here, this is just to hide the layer. Here, this is to lock the track. So basically, if you don't want any more edits to be applied to that, you can't move it at all accidentally or anything. The next thing is if you want to add a new track, I know that was kind of complicated for me when I first started as well. It is pretty easy in here. Just press add track, or you can just drag it down here. Just drag a new one. And basically they have a separate track for audio and visual. In Camtasia, it's a bit different because both are combined and you can apply an audio clip on the same track as a video clip. So yeah, I'm just gonna show you the graphics right here. So I'm gonna go to file, new here, and just place legacy text so you guys can see how it looks like. This is a thing of its own. It has this own thing, which is cool because in Adobe Premiere Pro, everything has its own kind of work center, which I really like editing, color, effects, audio. Lumetri color has its own color correction station basically. So that's really helpful as well. So you just want to type, and then there's a bunch of settings here you can change. Like you can change this. And yeah, it's really cool. And yeah, I think that's basically it. Oh, besides this, what this is basically the preview quality. So if you want it to show full quality, this might make it pretty laggy. If you're editing on a slower machine, a slower laptop, if you show full quality, it might not play smoothly. So what you would want to do is maybe play 1/4 of the quality or half the quality. They have these options in other editors as well. If you want to zoom in on the clip, you can always do that. You can just zoom in on that. If you want to make this actually bigger, you can just drag this down. I always dragged it this way, assuming that it would get bigger, but it kind of did get bigger, but this gets it bigger by a lot, like doing this. So if you want to make this bigger, just do that. And yeah, the final thing, which was probably the hardest thing for me to do, was finding out how to render. I had to search up an entire tutorial on it. I actually made a tutorial on it if you guys want to watch that. But you go to file, export. They should really just place like a export button or something like that. And before I talk about that, a lot of people think that if you press save as and then save it, that it'll go on your desktop wherever you saved it and you can upload it. That is not the case. Saving it will basically save it as a project file. It isn't yet a video file. When you go to export and you export it and it renders, it changes the project file into a video file. So just saving it like this isn't gonna do anything. You wanna export it. And as you can see here, just looking at this, there's a bunch of options. What do? You want to export media. If you export stuff like captions, it'll only export captions, and markers, it'll only export markers. So you just want to press export media. There's also an option to render in the Adobe media encoder. Why this is helpful is because it's a separate program where you can export Adobe files. And so basically while it's exporting in that separate program, you can still edit on anything you want in Adobe Premiere Pro at the same time. So if you push out a lot of videos or you're in a rush, you can edit more than one video while the other one's rendering, because when you export just media alone, unless you cancel the rendering process, you can't edit another video at the same time. The whole screen's taken up by this screen. You can't really do anything. The next thing, once you go on to the export settings right here, let me just show you right here. You see it? Is you want to select entire sequence. The reason you want to do this is because you want to render everything on the timeline, the first point of media to the end. If you select sequence in and out, that's where you set the in and out. That's what I mentioned before. If you set it in and out from like 2 minutes to 3 minutes, it'll only render that portion. And you can preview it, and just in case you don't know and you don't want to go back here. If you do work area, it'll render the entire timeline. So if you have your out set past where the last clip is, it'll render up to where the out is. Or if you have a clip at 10 minutes and the video actually ends at 5 minutes, it'll still render up to 10 minutes. Now, usually what you'll do is press match sequence settings if you don't really know the best export settings. I have a video on that if you guys want to check that. This is probably your best bet if you don't want to watch that. But usually what I'll do is I'll select H.264. This is the most popular. And I'll go to a preset, maybe like YouTube 1080p HD right here. And I'll see what the frame rate and stuff is and match it. So you can match it right here. Just press this to match basically. I'll render at maximum depth because I'm really keen on quality. So I'll do this and this right here. And what I'll also do is I'll set it as 2-pass at 16 and 50. So this is basically the highest quality. It'll probably take longer to render. And basically what I'll do is it'll go through the video twice to render it twice, basically. And that just improves the quality. If you don't really care about that and you just want to render videos faster, you can just do 1-pass normally and stuff. And like I mentioned before, you can add to Adobe Media Encoder and it'll open up in a separate application and you can just render it there and you can continue editing something else, or you can export it immediately. So let's just export it, you can see, and now it's rendering. A lot of people ask me, is it faster rendering in Premiere Pro or Sony Vegas or Camtasia? To be honest, I haven't really noticed a difference on higher end PCs, but on lower end PCs, it's much faster on Sony Vegas, definitely. I've noticed that Adobe Premiere Pro crashes a lot and is slower on like $500, $700 laptops, while on something more expensive, it works the best. But with like Sony Vegas and like Filmora and Camtasia, they work on basically anything and it'll work fine. For me, it doesn't crash. Even on my slower end PC, it didn't really crash. It was just more laggy than anything. And it was already at 1/4 quality. Imagine if I put it at full, it'd be pretty slow. But yeah, that's basically the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully it helped you out. My name is Steven, and I'll see you in the next one.